Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next pre-construction deal only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots and deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without the sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
If you own or manage a small inn or bed and breakfast, why don't you list it on the world's #1 online B&B directory that comes with an exclusive, risk-free 90-day money-back guarantee? Head on over to irelpodcast.com/bed to get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 31 of the IREL podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I am really excited to head south of the border when I sit down and speak with Robin Miller from Mexican Beach Bum in Rocky Point, Mexico. And as always, we'll get the true story on the local real estate scene and have you coming away wanting to investigate its local property market further or cross it off your short list entirely and continue listening. Right now from Robin, you will learn why someone born in California and living in Tucson moved to Rocky Point. And once you listen to her rave about its drive time convenience from the States, you might just join her. Reveal some big game-changing news about Mexico's first cruise ship home port and what she thinks it means for the local real estate market. Exposes what the new international airport opening up has done to draw vacationers from the U.S., which has already brought in new highways, international chains, and travelers. Uncovers local real estate prices start at $45,000, including closing costs, with one-bedroom condos on Sandy Beach going for less than $100,000. Wait, did someone say micheladas? And much more. And don't forget, if you're listening to this podcast and want to grab Robin's contact details, links on buying or selling Rocky Point real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/31. Let me prepare my Tecate, lime, and salt. Don't forget to put on your swim trunks and get ready for the Mexican Beach Bum to bring it. In case you can't tell, I'm excited. Let's get Robin on the phone. What is going on, Robin? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, straight from Rocky Point, Mexico, so we can get to know you personally. Tell us more about yourself and where your stomping grounds were before you ended up in Rocky Point.
Hi, Taylor. I wanted to share with you, I'm originally from Long Beach, California, and I'm from the beach. And then I moved to Tucson, Arizona in 1985. And since then, I moved around a bit to Northern California. I lived in Hawaii, Idaho, Colorado, New Mexico, but I always returned to Tucson. And when I moved to Tucson, I found we had a beach, just 3.5-hour drive from either Tucson or Phoenix to the beautiful Sea of Cortez. So I'm a beach girl, and that's why I'm the Mexican Beach Bum, and I love it here.
Robin, I have to ask you, it's the end of February. What is the weather like in Rocky Point?
There should be a law against living like this. We're wearing shorts. It's we're sweeping sand, not shoveling snow.
So jealous. And Robin, so we can get a better idea of you professionally, give us your brief resume leading up to Mexican Beach Bum.
Well, as a teenager and an adult, I had worked in the bowling alley business and working the desk, league coordinator. Sometimes I was a pin center mechanic. I later went to work at banks, then for many years worked as a sales agent and a district manager with a nationwide company. It's a collection agency. So I helped businesses increase their cash flow and won many awards. So I helped others win contests and succeeded in sales. So when I was living in Tucson, and I was just there making sales with this collection service. And then I made the decision to come to Rocky Point, but I'm sure we're going to get to that in a moment.
So I have a question for you. Do you have anything to do with the famous Mexico Beach Bum restaurant?
No, but it's a wonderful restaurant on the Malecón here in Rocky Point, also known as Puerto Penasco. And they were called a Mexico Beach Bum, but they removed the word Mexico. Now it's just Beach Bum. In fact, I drove by it last night and there's a sign, just Beach Bum.
Robin, we are always fascinated to learn about which countries people have considered and why. Now, why don't we delve deeper into Mexico as a whole, and then why you chose Rocky Point in particular versus other popular locations?
Well, I've been going to Mexico border towns since I was a kid, living in LA and going with my friends and family. And I love the food, had interesting experiences. Like when I was 12 years old, for instance, there was a time I went to Tijuana. I bought some firecrackers, and which were illegal to bring to the U.S. So I smuggled them in my cowboy boots. Ooh, I think the statute of limitations is over. It's been over 40 years. You think? I loved going to Mexico. Then when I moved to Tucson, I was only 1 hour drive to Nogales, so I'd make a run for the border and have tacos, go to the duty-free store, maybe pick up a bottle of my favorite drink. And I was excited when I moved to Tucson that we had Arizona's beach just down the street, 3.5 hours away. So myself and many other Arizonans had been camping in tents on Sandy Beach in the old days before the condos were built. We were all younger, and then we could navigate the tents and outdoor camping a lot easier. But Rocky Point felt like home to me, and I loved shopping at the fish markets, eating fresh shrimp, taking fresh shrimp back to Tucson, setting off the fireworks on the beach. You see a pattern here with fireworks? Enjoying the ocean and all the charm Rocky Point had to offer. And Rocky Point's just 1 hour to the Arizona border, and it's so convenient to be in Phoenix or Tucson for the items we need when we go there. So then be at the beach for the weekend in such a short time. And then fast forward to 2005, 2006, I was going to Rocky Point more frequently, almost every weekend. And then my Tucson friends said I should save the gas and move there. I said, okay. And they said, we didn't mean it. And so I did have an opportunity to move to Puerto Vallarta for 2 years to sell real estate and learn a new area. But my goal was always to return to Rocky Point. So it was just a short time I was in Vallarta. Then I came back to Rocky Point.
If we're looking at a map of Mexico, can you show us where Rocky Point's located?
Okay, if you're looking at the Arizona map, just look at Phoenix and look straight down. Once you cross the border, once you see that border, look down a little bit more, and to the left, you'll see a big brown spot. And that's our Pinacate. It's a biosphere reserve, and it's very famous. And that's where the Apollo 13 guys had some moon landings. And you'll see that. Now keep on following straight down to the beach, and that's Rocky Point.
So how far are you drive time from like Tucson or Phoenix?
It's 212 miles either city, and it's about 3.5 hour drive.
Wow. Robin, we have gotten to know you both personally and professionally, reasons why you chose Mexico and why Rocky Point speaks to you. But get ready, because now it's time for us to pick your brain on the local real estate scene. And to get the juices flowing, we're going to do a quick round of what I like to call the real estate hot seat. We'll ask you 5 rapid fire questions, and you give me an answer in 15 seconds or less each. Robin, are you ready for the Rocky Point hot seat?
Oh, yeah.
What currency is local real estate priced in?
U.S. dollars.
Is owning property as a foreigner legal?
Yes.
Can property be titled?
Yes. In fact, foreigners can have their title, direct title, outside of the restricted zone, but it needs to be a bank trust known as a fideicomiso within the restricted zone. That's like 50 kilometers from the beach. We are at the beach, and that's restricted zone.
Can money flow in and out of Mexico easily, or are there currency restrictions?
There's no more bringing down suitcases of cash. Traceable wire transfers is how money is transferred in a property purchase. With the anti-money laundering laws, buyers need to show proof of funding source, and there are reports that are being made on each transaction. It's like about $50,000, anything over. We need a whole day for that answer.
And Robin, as listeners know, my number one question, what is your favorite local drink?
Michelada, Tecate beer, and a glass of ice with clamato, spices, and lime.
Robin, you have to do it with Tecate. Tecate is Mexico's best beer. If you don't mind, can you better explain how you think the cost of living is different in Rocky Point, Puerto Vallarta, and then your home in Phoenix or Tucson?
Well, I find prices are much less. In fact, I had a friend, a buyer, a client of mine a few years ago from Canada, and I took her to a local vegetable store, and she could not believe the prices. And she got so many vegetables, she said she couldn't believe it. We have fresh shrimp. We have for instance, shrimp. It's like, I don't know, like $6 or $7 a pound, as opposed to Tucson, like $15, $20 a pound.
And then how about like your day-to-day cost of living as far as gas or as far as groceries, as far as going out, that kind of thing?
A few years ago, gas was less expensive than the US, but it's about the same, maybe a little bit higher now, but it's being imported or exported from the US to here, so it's a little bit more. You want to know about rents too?
Sure, go for it really quick.
You can get like a 2-bedroom house a few blocks from the beach for like $500 a month, maybe a condo on the beach between $500 and $1,000 a month.
So you're in Rocky Point now. You were in PV. How would you compare the cost of living in Rocky Point as compared to PV?
I would say it's less here in some ways. There are some differences. Like if you take your laundry out to go get laundry, I take a bag of laundry in Vallarta, and that'd be like $3 or $4. Here it's like $7 or $8. But then there's things that are less expensive in Rocky Point than there are in Vallarta. So Vallarta is a tourist town, and Rocky Point is too, but not as famous and international. So we're still on the low end.
Okay, Robin, you are off the Rocky Point hot seat, but it's time to zero in on the local real estate scene. Give us your brief synopsis on the Rocky Point real estate market over the last few years, where it is today, and then where you see it heading for the next few years.
Like any real estate market, we have our ups and downs. We're a vacation home destination. So when the economy turned, the vacation home industry suffered. In the last 2 years, there were certainly great deals, and they've been sold. There are still many good opportunities, and right now we're seeing a quick upswing in sales. Right now, I have 2 under contract just this month in February. So when over 2 years ago, I had 2 under contract in 1 year. Just today, I received a call from my closing attorney on a transaction, and she said the Ministry of Foreign Affairs office is way behind in getting permits for the foreigners. So many sales are happening. So it was good news, not good news for the buyer, but it'll be a few extra days. But that's good news because they're busy. So they're going to have to hire more people in that office. So we had to push back our closing date, and the market is picking up speed fast. So we have newly paved streets, new convention center, AutoZone, Sam's Club, Aurrera Bodega, which is owned by Walmart. We have U.S. franchises. We have a new coastal highway, which makes it a quicker drive for Californians. The new international airport that flies between here and Las Vegas and also Hermosillo, our capital. Now, the big news, the construction of Mexico's first cruise ship home port. There's a lot of excitement brought to our little piece of paradise, and many buyers are seeing this opportunity.
Hey, I want to highlight one thing that you said, and that's the big news with the construction of Mexico's first cruise ship home port. Where's that going?
It's going on Sandy Beach. It's located next to the bar restaurant called Wrecked at the Reef. I don't know if you know Sandy Beach very well, but those are all the condos, most of the condos on Sandy Beach, and that's the most popular area. And they're building a pier right now, and they feel it's going to be completed in 2015. We'll see how that goes.
2015, that's a year from now.
I know, it's pretty aggressive, but the federal government is throwing a lot of money at this.
Oh, that's fantastic. Robin, you have us sold on Mexico as a destination, Rocky Point as a location, and then it's Rosalie Alec within the near future. Of course, you don't have a crystal ball. I sure as heck don't. No one does. But that is why I think it's so vitally important to get on-the-ground insight from local real estate professionals. And yes, Robin, I just used the words local and on the ground in the same sentence to drive home a very important fact. You are not some newsletter writer who might spend a few days in Rocky Point and then send out emails with hot buys, calling yourself an international real estate guru. You were there in the trenches on a daily basis, dealing with local buyers, sellers, agents, lawyers, and every facet of the real estate business. Robin, break this down even further for us. Pretend you are Google Maps or Google Street View. What streets, neighborhoods, or parts of the city are we talking about in Rocky Point?
Well, we have main areas we serve. Sandy Beach is the most popular. That's the beach with 2 hotels and the majority of the condo developments, and of course the cruise ship home port, and a beachfront residential home community called Costa Diamante. That's all on Sandy Beach. Plus there's bars and restaurants. So that would be the home location or the location of the home port terminal in that area. Then past Sandy Beach on the other side of the hill, which is called Competition Hill, where people race their sand rails and 4-wheelers and ATVs. That's Choya Bay. That area has great views, beaches, tide pools, and it's a very unique community. And past Choya Bay is a beautiful new Laguna Shores development for those who want peace, tranquility, and it's very quiet up there. We will go in the opposite direction now of Sandy Beach. We have the areas we call in-town. It's called in-town, which has single-family homes. There's in-town hotels, apartments, and of course our downtown area and city hall areas. Next is the Mirador, which is near the beach. That's where I live. It has townhomes on the beach, has hotels, trailer parks, and it's popular for finding sea glass and enjoying drinks and lunch on the beach, like Manny's Beach Club, for instance. Further down are the residential homes of Las Conchas, where there are beach homes available for rent and also for sale. There's many other beautiful homes built there, so they're considered second, third, and fourth row homes, which gives an idea if the walk to the beach is 5 minutes or 1 minute. Now, past Las Conchas, there's more residential home communities called like Playa La Jolla, Playa Encanto, and a few more successful condo developments along the way. Then in the midst is the Mayan Palace. Many are familiar with the Mayan timeshare properties, and just a couple minutes from the Mayan is the new international airport.
So, Robin, can you better explain how big Rocky Point is? Are all these spots in Rocky Point, or are they just outside of Rocky Point?
Well, it's Puerto Penasco. That's our municipality, and they're all in it. But they are spread out because we're desert. This is a special place where the desert meets the ocean.
And how big do you think your town is population-wise of Rocky Point?
We get asked that question a lot. And here's what I say about Mexico in general. You ask the same question of 20 people, guess how many answers you're going to get? 20 answers. So, I've heard 50,000, I've heard 30,000, I've heard 80,000. But we do have some, like outskirts, outside of town. There's a lot of little small homes out in the outskirts. But there's people living out there. So, 30, 40, 50,000. But you know what? We do know that's going to grow.
So do you need to go outside of Rocky Point for any major shopping that you do, or is everything there for you?
Everything's here for me. Sam's Club it's a Sam's Club. And then
it has everything.
Yeah. And then we have the Aurrera Bodega, which is like a Walmart.
Right.
And, fruits, vegetables, meat, chicken. And we have, and of course I have clothing, pots and pans and dishes, kitchenware. There's also local areas, local little stores in town that we find things that we need. We really have everything we need. And then we have shrimp at the fish markets and fish and restaurants. And so as far as purchasing things like household items, sheets and towels and dishes, things like that, we have those places, shoes, clothes. However, since we're so close to us Americans, since we're so used to our big Walmart, super Walmarts and the big stores, we do like the convenience of running over to Arizona.
So, Robin, now that we have specific locations in mind, what types of properties do you recommend? And first, why don't I give you a few brief examples of what I'm talking about? Are we talking about buying pre-construction units for capital appreciation that we later flip? Are we talking about buying completed apartments, houses, or office spaces to generate rental income? Or are we talking about buying land to either sell as is or subdivide into smaller tracts? Robin, give us a better idea of what you are talking about today.
Well, the pre-construction sales were part of our real estate boom here in 2001. 2001 up to 2006. I was not here personally, but I did hear stories about that where people were showing up with suitcases full of money and buying. So I don't know the exact dates in 2001, maybe 2002. But once the economy slowed down, there were a few projects that were no longer funded. So they're partially built right now, and some are owned by the bank. So as our market is picking up speed and we sell the inventory we have, I believe the developers will be returning to complete the projects. So for now, buyers have been preferring to purchase existing condos that are already established and have the HOA firmly in place. So the condos and the homes are good investments to place in the rental pool. Renters are still seeking accommodations online through VRBO and TripAdvisor and real estate agents' websites, and that will increase when the cruise ships are here. The passengers will need a place to stay before and after their voyage. So it's an excellent investment for the major investor. It's something I've supported for several years. Another thing is, I've been thinking this for several years. It's nothing new. But I think it's time for medical tourism and assisted living, like maybe a senior center. I've had that vision for several years, and baby boomers are looking for cost-effective residences and looking for affordable accommodations for their aging parents or even themselves. And the U.S. healthcare costs are getting too high for them. Nursing homes, assisted living, senior centers, they're all pretty costly. So that model has been proven in Ajijic, San Miguel de Allende, and I saw it firsthand in Puerto Vallarta. I've always been confident it would be a success here in Rocky Point, especially being conveniently located near the U.S.
So do you see most people there currently, do they stay there for a few months out of the year during a cold time in the States or Canada or their home country? Do they live there 6 months out of the year or 12 months out of the year, that kind of thing?
Well, that's a good question, because like in Canada, my Canadian friends say that they have to stay here a certain amount of time, like no more than 6 months, because they have to go back to Canada and stay there. Yeah. With here, a lot of people come here from Arizona, Colorado, Texas, California. They come here for like weekends or maybe a week at Christmas time, holidays, Thanksgiving, and they'll rent a house for a week or maybe a couple of weeks. They spend their family vacations here. And the Mexican nationals, when it's Semana Santa, which is Holy Week during Easter time, they come here from all over. And this is their beach too. So we see all different people coming at different times for different reasons, for different lengths of time. So it can get so busy during, let's say, April, May, June, July. And it does get hot and humid. Not as much as Vallarta, though, but it does get hot and humid. But we have the beach. We have just so many things to cool off. We do have air conditioning.
Okay, Robin, now I'm going to hit you up with a two-part question that I know everyone wants to know, and you have to give us a general range so we have some price points in mind. Here they are. Part one, what would be the price range of what we are talking about? Maybe give us a starting price point at the low end to a final price point at the high end. And Robin, just to clarify, I'm talking about total purchase price.
Okay, because I'll be including the closing costs then.
Perfect.
You know, you can find a two-bedroom house in town, including closing costs, for about $45,000 to $55,000. It might need a little bit of work. It may or may not be furnished, but that's on the low end. It's not going to be on the beach. It's going to be a few blocks from the beach. You could find a furnished one-bedroom condo on Sandy Beach for $95,000, including closing costs. These are full ownerships. You'll own the buyer will own the whole property. You might see a one-half ownership on Sandy Beach available for $90,000 in a luxury condo. A furnished beachfront four-bedroom home in Las Conchas I know of is $700,000 on the beach. And the Sandy Beach condo development, separate built villa, you could get for about $550,000. And I checked these on the MLS the other day. And also luxury Sandy Beach furnished 6-bedroom penthouse, including the closing costs, is about $1.4 million.
And then, Robin, I'm going to transition to a part two. I know it's very tough, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What would be the cost per meter just for a general range?
Well, your small house in town, when you do the math, it'd be about $300 per square meter. And then go to the high end of, let's say, a $1 million condo would be about $1,300 to $1,400 per square meter.
And then I have a follow-up. What do most people come down and buy? Are they buying condos on the beach? Are they buying larger houses off the beach? What do most people look at?
You know, that's part of our qualifying. The attraction is the beach, of course. Some people want the amenities. They want the pool. They want the workout center. They want a restaurant on site. They want the views. And maybe they don't want to pay an HOA. Maybe they don't want, that's not their budget. So they'll say, no, I don't want the condo, but they want to go maybe live in a house. So it depends on what that buyer wants. And also in town, they don't have those amenities, but there's no HOA fees. So it really depends on the person as we do our job and help that person qualify and narrow down what they want.
Robin, why don't we transition to a question I like to call, what would sister do? My 40-something-year-old sister calls you up, says she has X amount of dollars to spend. You know, you can't let my sister down, Robin. Share with us 3 specific examples you would show her and explain why these make sense.
Okay. We want you and sister to both be pleased.
That's right.
Because you're going to give me referrals in the future. So I have to do my job first. My first job is before I show your sister around is to qualify her. We know she has X amount to spend. Will the source of that money pass the litmus test? Where's the money coming from? Is it her 401k, sale of a property, inheritance, anything that can prove it's legal money to be compliant with the anti-money laundering laws? Now I'll ask her if she wants to live full time or use it for herself and keep it vacant, or use it while offering it in the rental pool or full-time rental. Does she want a standalone house where she handles the maintenance or hires a property manager? Or should she prefer to be involved in a development with amenities and has an HOA where she has less maintenance concerns and more amenities to offer the renters? So once we establish her use for her purchase, we view the MLS together, we look at the photos, we eliminate the properties that don't qualify. I doubt either one of us wants to tour 500 properties. So, so once we narrow it down to a handful online, then we take the tours. This qualifying process is a thing that makes sense before running out the door at random, because we do have a lot of different options. Then at that time, I can easily answer the questions of which property we will go see and why. So look at all that time, effort, and gas we saved.
We saved a lot. And Robin, that is a very fair answer, and I really, really like it. So now that we are laser focused on specific areas of Rocky Point, we know our starting price point. We have an idea of cost per meter. Now, I have to ask you an obvious question. How are we going to buy? Do we need to come in with all cash, or can we come in with a certain percentage down and get local financing from a bank or credit union?
Well, it depends on the property. Some owners are willing to accept a down payment and carry the note. Some will want all cash. There are still some condos that offer developer financing with 10 or 20% cash down and a low interest rate. Low interest rate here in Mexico means less than 10%. So there might be something that's maybe between 6 and 8% is a typical interest rate. There are no Mexico loans offered in the U.S., secured by the property. So most buyers get a home equity loan, they get a line of credit, they use their 401k, and if a buyer does need a Mexico mortgage, they are available. And I know a person, they do cost a little bit more, and there's a higher down payment, and the interest rates are pricey, and those are limited. But there are seller carrybacks, and there's a lot of cash deals too.
So, Robin, with the clients that you've dealt with and the people that you know, how do most people from outside of Mexico buy property in Mexico? Do they use cash from a checking account, or do they do a self-directed IRA like if they're from the States, or do they do a home equity line of credit on their house? How do they get the cash available to buy in Mexico?
Most of the buyers I've dealt with have had the cash. They're retiring. They have the cash either ready in their accounts, in their savings and checking, and all of the above. They do have 401k, and some of them do have a boatload of equity in their home, and they just will get a line of credit on their home, or they'll just pull out cash of their home. I have a guy right now from Minnesota, and he's selling his house, and he's moving here, and he's just using the cash sale from his house. So cash, a lot of cash.
And then do you know of anybody in Mexico, like in your close circle, that does loans for foreigners to buy homes in Mexico?
I do have someone, and he's actually located in Puerto Vallarta. One of the benefits of being in Puerto Vallarta for some time, I was able to connect with and network with people there. And he's, in fact, he's on my website. He's one of the contacts I have that actually does successfully fund loans.
But those are few and far between, right? Like, I know it's offered and I know people, quote unquote can, but are people actually getting them?
They're getting them. I've had one in Puerto Vallarta, and they had to save their money to get the down payment. And they had interviewed him. So they have to follow all the rules.
And I know that you're not a banker, and I know you probably don't know anything about his loan, but what would be a guesstimate of a down payment someone might need? Do you think it's like 40% or 50% down payment, and then the bank could finance the balance?
You were reading my mind. The number 40% is the number that I was told. Now, we're talking like a year ago, so anything that happened since then, but typically It's 40%. Yeah.
Okay, Robin, anyone who has ever owned real estate can tell you, you need to have a money exit strategy in place even before you buy. It's something what I like to call, where's the cheddar? You are buying the property to do what with it to make some money. So, Robin, where's my cheddar?
You want some cheese?
Where's my queso?
Yeah. In our cases mostly it's knowing you have a fun vacation home that's within a reasonable driving distance from the United States. You can make some very good rental money, and many people retire here because it's cheaper to live. And I had mentioned earlier that I have a buyer that's moving into his home in town in a couple months. So he's retiring here and he'll live out his life here, he and his wife. So once he's gone, his home will go to his kids as a substitute beneficiary in his bank trust. So where's the cheddar? Well, how big a slice of cheese do you want? You could even take millions of dollars and buy a development that's maybe half finished and turn it into something. Now you're going to have a bigger piece of cheese at the back end.
Robin, I love it, and I wanted to thank you for taking the time to share with us about Rocky Point Real Estate. We have heard about your journey, why you chose Mexico, exact areas to focus on, price points to look out for, specific examples good enough even for my sister, a money strategy to purchase, and then what we might do with it after the fact to make some cheddar. Unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye. But before we do, share with us easy ways to get a hold of you, any parting advice you might want to share, and then let's say goodbye.
Okay, I make this easy. If I'm in a swimming pool, I don't have business cards on me. I just have a drink in my hand. So if I'm speaking to people, they can remember Mexican beach bum. If they just Google Mexican beach bum, they'll find me. I'm all over Google. But it's the email is Robin, ROBIN, at MexicanBeachBum.com, which is also my website, MexicanBeachBum.com, which is also my Twitter.com/MexicanBeachBum, which is also my blog, which is MexicanBeachBum.wordpress.com. And I have a phone number, a U.S. line, which is my Magic Jack, which is 602-539-3124. And by the way, if you hear anything in the background, people drive by all the time in town selling tortillas and bread and water bottles and propane gas. So it's nice, and cotton candy. So it's nice living in town where people bring food to you. And then a way to dial my Mexican cell phone from the U.S. is 011-521-638-116-1497.
Absolutely fantastic, Robin. I have really enjoyed this conversation straight from Rocky Point, Mexico to our earbuds. And I hope we can catch up again in 3 to 6 months.
Cool.
I want to thank Robin once again for taking us to one of my favorite countries and exposing why Rocky Point, just south of the U.S. border, is such an attractive up-and-coming destination. Robin's awesome personality and on-the-ground insights made her episode truly enjoyable, and I can't wait to get her back on the show again soon with more specific Rocky Point real estate investments she believes you need to hear about right now. If you're listening to this podcast and want to grab Robin's contact details, links on buying or selling Rocky Point real estate, or any other show notes, head on over to irelpodcast.com/31. If you're a homeowner, property agent, or real estate developer and are looking to gain more exposure for your properties, I invite you to showcase it to my eager audience. With listeners in over 41 countries, with thousands of downloads and counting, we have the targeted renters and buyers you are looking for. With innovative solutions to have your property showcased on our site's most visible locations, solutions to have you dominating Google, a full team to create property videos, and video submission specialists ready to manually upload your videos to the world's top video sharing sites, we have you covered. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/31 for details.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.